This is Michigan Perspectives, Sunday edition on WXYT FM HD Detroit, 97.1 The Ticket.
97.1 The Ticket.
Good morning, I'm Elisa Z. You're listening to the Sunday edition. The gentleman who's joining me this morning is with the Lupus Alliance of Michigan, and actually I think you're with the Indiana affiliate as well. So when I reached out first, Frank, to your organization, it was to a great extent because lupus is something so many of us hear about. I don't know if there's anybody who doesn't know somebody who's affected by lupus, and yet we have so little understanding. So, Frank, first, please say your last name because it's Mortl, and I don't want to mispronounce that.
Oh, no problem, Elisa. Thank you. It's Frank Mortl.
Well, that was just too easy.
It is relatively easy, but it's we lost a vowel somewhere in my family gene pool in Austria. But nevertheless,
and yet you added the third.
I did, yes. Namesake of my father, who also was in the nonprofit business as well, I might add. But
I understand about going into father's businesses. I, too, am in a similar field to my dad. So welcome, Frank. Thanks for getting up early on a Sunday morning.
Boy, thank you for hosting us. We really appreciate this opportunity.
Well, let's jump right in, if we may. And I know we're not talking in medical terms, but in lay people's terms. To the best of your knowledge, I know you're not a doctor, you don't play one on TV, and nor do you pretend to be a medical expert. However, you certainly have some working knowledge. What is lupus?
Lupus is an autoimmune disease that cannot be contracted. It is not infectious, rare, or contagious. It's something you're born with. It's a genetic disease. It's really, not unlike a lot of diseases. It's a snowflake disease. It affects just about everybody in some relative way, shape, or form differently. And it's really a difficult thing to live with. And yet, there are a number of folks that support our organization. Again, that's the Lupus Alliance of America, Michigan, Indiana affiliate. We cover, as a support mechanism, if you will, a nonprofit organization, the balance of Michigan, the entire state of Michigan, and northern Indiana.
Okay.
And we have what we have been able to identify somewhere around 85,000 people throughout Michigan and northern Indiana who have been diagnosed with this terrible disease called lupus. And it is just that. It's a devastating disease that affects people, though differently, in a multiple of ways, whether it's from attacking their organs or identifying within your autoimmune system ways that it will go after the tissues within the body. It can create terrible rashes, joint pain, severe arthritis. In fact, oftentimes the primary care physician for someone affected with lupus is a rheumatologist.
It's so hard to diagnose because of all the reasons you just mentioned, Frank. You're talking about a rash affecting the organs. When I think of lupus, I think of rheumatoid arthritis. I think of arthritic symptoms, but there are so many others. How do we know? Where do we start? What do we do? I guess we start with our regular physician and see if they can pinpoint what's going on with us, and then we roll from there, right?
Boy, that's so true. It's a great point you make, because oftentimes your body will talk to you. I used to be the executive director, as an example, of the American Society of Gene and Cell Therapy. And these were doctors that were trying to identify gene structures, DNA, within a person's body to help control and hopefully cure multiple disease types, lupus, but many, many others. And what one of my past presidents used to say is, for everyone, whether they think they have some type of disease or whether it's just the common cold or pain within a joint, your body, more often than not, will talk to you. But are you actually listening to what your body's saying? So will you go take that step to either get onto WebMD or go to an urgent care facility or your primary care physician or a hospital for that matter? Lupus, this disease called lupus, it's a chronic autoimmune disease in which the body's immune system, instead of serving only its normal protective functions, forms antibodies that attack healthy tissues and organs, causing inflammation. And so when you feel these types of trauma coming onto your body, are you listening to it? Will you go seek help? And if so, what then is to be done about it? Is that primary care physician or whatever medical professional actually going to take that next step to accurately and in the early stages diagnose the disease properly?
You raised such an interesting point there, Frank. Are we actually listening? Because I have so many people come in from various organizations, whether it's the Kidney Foundation, the Parkinson Foundation. A lot of this, when we feel something going on in our bodies, Frank, we know when it's not right. I know I'm supposed to feel good. That's the bottom line. The basic premise, we're supposed to get up in the morning and feel just fine, provided all our systems are functioning properly. If, however, they're not, to run and hide from those symptoms and, and pretend they're not there doesn't make us any better. It just keeps us hiding and potentially keeps us from getting treatment for something we need some help, or at the very least some guidance with.
Well, it's a great point. And again, it really goes to, having the ability of your doctor to even consider lupus. Now, hopefully more often than not, if a person comes down with an unexplained fever, a skin rash, they have sensitivity to light or sunlight. Hopefully it's not lupus, and perhaps they are, steering you in a different direction and can, hopefully find a treatment option that works for every unique patient. However, if these symptoms were to persist and you end up with painful or swollen joints, muscle pain, chest pain on deep breathing, hair loss, prolonged or extreme fatigue, like I say, over a substantial period of time, perhaps it might be worth it for someone suffering through those conditions to raise the issue to their medical professional and to say, there is a blood test for lupus. Could we at least put this on the radar? Because what I'm hearing out in the field, and perhaps we'll get into this a little bit later, we do offer numerous opportunities for people suffering really with any autoimmune disease, including fibromyalgia, lupus, and others, to attend support groups throughout the state of Michigan that meet on a monthly basis. And I've attended just about all of the 15 support groups that we offer throughout Michigan and northern Indiana. And what I'm hearing from a lot of these folks is that they were diagnosed ultimately, but it could take years. And isn't that a shame that process of trying to find treatment options, coping mechanisms, organizations like the Lupus Alliance of Michigan and Indiana that exist out there to help these people took, in some cases, years to identify, just because a doctor tried to rectify the situation in an area that wasn't treating the actual cause, which is this terrible disease called lupus.
And not to dismiss or diminish the medical profession, however, we need to be advocates for our own health.
So true.
This is not something, lupus isn't something the majority of the universe is walking around with. It's also not something that a general practitioner is necessarily trained to identify through no fault of his or her own. That's not their specialty. So if a physician does not recommend a next step, I would like to suggest that we need to ask our physician